Chloe and Miss Tamar Beck coming up. Chloe Richardson, empowered by Chloe. Chloe is a multilingual event advocate of over 15 years, spending her day-to-day championing and coaching the impact and value of events globally. Miss Tamar Beck from Gleanin'. Ms. Tamar Beck from Gleanin'. Gleanin' is a platform for event marketers who need to reach and convert new attendees for their events. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, start clapping your hands right now on the screen. Start clapping your hands right now on the screen. I'm going to look stage right. And please welcome Miss Chloe Richardson and Miss Tamar Beck.
Thank you. Wow, that song took me back a bit. Hi, Tamar. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you, Chloe?
Yeah, very well, thank you. And hi to everybody else that is tuning in. As you've probably noticed from our backgrounds, Tamar and I are actually signing in from the UK, where it's already getting dark, a little bit miserable today. But I know a lot of you are joining us from all over the world, some probably even just waking up and having your morning coffee. So it is a pleasure to be joining you from London today. Now, I'm going to do a little bit of an intro before Tamar and I jump in, because we don't have any slides. This is going to be a very candid conversation about proving ROI and metrics that matter. And those topics, metrics, measurement, proving impact and value, justifying spend and defending budgets, it's more important now than it's ever been. In fact, according to some ELX research that we did recently, over 90% of global event leaders see event measurement as one of their biggest challenges. And of course, this is particularly important when it comes to customer-facing events, because pipeline and lead generation, they're just not enough anymore. Businesses need so much more in order to sign off budgets and become advocates of the events function. So today, myself and the wonderful Tamar Beck will be putting our heads together to chat about one of the core elements of effective measurement, metrics that matter.
Yeah, so Chloe, I thought it'd be good if we start with the most important thing to start with is, how do we define success? So what does success look like?
Yeah, and it's an interesting one, because Tamar and I are in conversations about measurement all the time, and people will say, what metrics should I be using? How can I tell the story to my stakeholders? And really, the first thing is to actually establish what success look like for you, because you can't do any measurement. You cannot prove anything. You cannot start collecting the right data if you haven't established what success looks like. And for me personally, I always recommend that you look at impact. So how is this event impacting us commercially, experientially, and strategically? And once you start to leverage impact metrics, then you can really start to establish, okay, how well did we do? And did we impact our attendees or our customers in the way that we wanted to? Tamar, you're nodding. What are your thoughts on impact?
Yeah, so for me, I'd say the same thing. Obviously, trying to make a difference, because otherwise, what are you doing it for? But for me, I think thinking about whether your conversations that you've had at the event, how have you moved things forward, both for yourself as the as the participant, but how have you moved those conversations forward with customers or whoever it is that you're meeting at the event? I think just deciding before you start what difference it is that you're trying to make, and moving things forward. If it's making no difference to you, then it's going to be pretty hard to measure the impact you've made.
Yeah, and we do see it quite a lot, don't we, where people will decide after the event to establish what success looks like, but by then it's too late, right? Because not only has the moment gone, but you're also almost using vanity metrics to try and determine success, because that might be all that you have at that point. And yeah, establishing it from the beginning is really, really important. Now, when Tamar and I put our heads together about this conversation, there's so much. We could probably talk about this for days. We wanted to be a little bit focused and strategic so that everybody could get some value from what we're talking about. And we said, why don't we split our audience into three groups? We've got ROI as an organizer, ROI as an exhibitor, and then maybe ROI as a sponsor or something similar. And
attendee.
As an attendee, yes, of course. So we thought we'd split it into those three categories, and then maybe share some of our ideas on how to measure ROI for those groups. And of course, if you have any questions, please do pop them in the box. So let's start, Tamar, because I think the majority of people on this call today will probably be from the organizer side. So when we talk about ROI for organizers, What does that look like?
So I think, as we do organise our own events these days, so I've got some kind of recent examples to draw on. But from my perspective, the first way I would measure success is the feedback I get from my attendees.
Mm-hmm.
For me, as an event organiser, that would be the most important thing. Feedback, the anecdotal and the statistical kind of feedback that you get, but also really important and quite a hard one to measure would be, would people come back?
Yeah.
For me, that is probably the be all and end all. If you've created an event that's been an amazing experience and people have really enjoyed it and it's been memorable, they'll want to come back to your event. Mm-hmm. So for me, the biggest success metric is whether you can get people to come back. I also thought about social noise. So mm-hmm. How do you know that people are really enjoying your event? I would be measuring the number of posts, the number of shares, the number of pictures, the number of people.
I think we may have some problems with Tamar's feed. So I'll just jump in there whilst Tamar adjusts her camera slightly. It's all part of the fun. It's why we do virtual events and why we love them, keeping us on our toes. And so I think Tamar was going to talk a little bit about the types of questions you should be asking and sending out feedback surveys after the event. And it's both quant and qual data that you need to really be obtaining. And the reason why that's important is you need to be asking some quant questions so that you can start to generate benchmarks. You can start to establish scores perhaps across the board. So you might say, how valuable was this event in terms of the use of your time between 1 and 5?
All of your
Oh, you're back, Tamar. Sorry. She's back. She's back. You cut up slightly just after you started talking about how sentiment data is important, sending out feedback surveys. So maybe if we rewind to there.
So I'm so sorry, everybody. For some reason, it looks like we're both having internet and we're not even in the same place. We are in the same city, but not in the same place. And I think the bits that Chloe just told me I cut out, one was like measuring that social noise, people sharing pictures and stuff. Find a way to measure that. And also the other point that I would say is you can judge success, I think, by how engaged your audience is in giving you the feedback in the first place. If you've created a great event, then your audience is probably going to be very willing to share feedback with you. And that's a really good way of, finding out whether people care about your event, whether you've delivered something of impact.
Yeah, for sure. And actually, that brings me, I'll loop back to a second to talk about surveys in general. But one question that I often get is, oh, but we don't get many people filling out our survey. So how can we be strategic with the responses? And there are loads of things that you can do to ensure that people actually complete your feedback surveys. And one of them, which is always missed, is just before you start the next edition, tell them what you did as a result of their feedback last time. So maybe 48 hours before the show, we changed X, Y, and Z because you told us to. Then you're planting the seed, and everyone who attends your event is going to think, oh, I remember they said they changed something because of feedback. So my opinion is valuable. My opinion is important. My voice will be listened to. And then you'll start to see your response rates going up because people believe that they're being heard. And the worst thing as humans is when you think you're talking and no one's listening to you and you're wasting your time. So play it back. We heard, we listened, we delivered, and we changed as a result of your feedback. So make sure you give it to us next year, basically, is what we're saying. Really good point on the feedback side. Yeah. And another thing, Tamar, another metric that we're finding for organisers, especially through surveys, is value for time, because costs are going up, not just for organisers, but also for attendees. So attendees are now in a really powerful position where they're able to cherry pick which events they're actually going to attend. And so they want to feel like they made the right choice and it was a valuable use of their time. So to combine that with Tamar's metric that she mentioned there about whether they come back next year, I think if you combine the two, really powerful metric to see how your event performed, I'd say. And I'm conscious of time. We're already 10 minutes in. Shall we jump to the next group of ROI collectors?
Let's do it. So I think the next group we said is, and this is definitely one for you, is, you know, the ROI. How, what does that look like from an exhibitor perspective? What should exhibitors be? What metrics should they be using?
Yeah. So this is quite a hot topic at the moment, because we, and most of the people on the call will know that you tend to spend between 30 and 50% of your marketing budget exhibiting at trade shows. And I know some folk, and some of them are in the room with us today, who exhibit at hundreds across the year. And in some cases, they are exhibiting because they always have done, or we've been doing it for 20 years, so it's just an expectation that we return. But for others, they are really fighting tooth and nail to get their budgets approved to exhibit the next year, even though they know it's the right thing to do. And the reason is because they don't have the right data to speak in the language of the business to be able to compete with other marketing channels that do have those insights at the click of a finger. So we would, in my previous role, we would say there are 10 data types that you should be collecting, everything from the actual exhibit characteristics through to sentiment of your team who are actually manning the booth. But for me, it goes back to, for you to assess ROI, you need to start way before you actually get on site. You would not believe the amount of exhibitors I speak to who, when I say, why are you at this trade show? They don't know. And so it's really critical to include objective sign-off in the pre-exhibit planning process. So make sure that all stakeholders, whether it be marketing, sales, or senior leadership, have signed off on the reason why you're attending. And I'm going to come back to objectives in a second when we talk about something else. But really, for me, what truly determines success for an exhibitor is, why did you go to exhibit in the first place? Did you achieve your goal? And to what extent did you achieve your goal? And this is called ROO, return on objectives. And in my opinion, ROI is actually just a subset of ROO, but I'll talk more about ROO in a second. Yeah, Tamar, what have you seen when you, because I know you obviously work with lots of exhibitors, you did it a lot yourself. So what have you seen?
Yeah, I mean, so from my perspective, it's, you know, I would never measure the success of an event by the number of leads, but to me, that seems to be the way that most people do it. It's like, how many scans did I get? And you see people kind of running competitions and things that get just because they're driving the number of scans up. But for me, when we decide whether we're going to do an event, I'm looking at how many conversations do we think we're going to have, and who do we want to have those conversations with? And it's not always just with prospects. We'll judge an event worth going to if we're also going to see customers there, if we're going to see partners, if we're going to see other industry people. So conversations, quality of conversations, who those conversations are with, but also I would be looking at what else I'm going to be doing around that event. So are there opportunities for us to create content? Are there opportunities for us to actually research the market, to actually record content, make content with customers and that kind of thing? The more things I can bring into our participation, it's going to help me with that kind of ROI conversation. It definitely helps us decide, it's going to be better for me to go to this event rather than that event, because I've got all these other opportunities, you know, to get value from it.
Mm-hmm. You actually touched on something, Tamar, that I want to grab onto for a second. You mentioned typically people tend to measure leads. That's probably because it's an easy thing to measure, and it's what we have traditionally measured and used as our success metric. I beg everyone on this call, stop letting your stakeholders use leads as your success metric. As field marketers, exhibit teams, event teams, you work so hard to put this together. Leads are not indicative of how hard you've worked. Leads are indicative of how well the organizer has brought people to the show, but also how well your sales team have done who are manning the booth. It is not representative of your efforts and your success. So what we need to be doing as an event community is changing the mindset of our stakeholders and our businesses to move away from looking at leads as a success metric for event teams, because it isn't representative and it's doing us all a disservice, because it's got nothing to do with us whether our salesperson collects 10 or 500 leads, even though we might have done a sterling job in pulling it all together and being strategic with it. So you reminded me of that, Tamar, when you mentioned leads.
If leads are your metric, you can do loads of things to get lots and lots of leads, but that is the least valuable thing, in my opinion, that you could measure, and shouldn't be what you base decisions on at all. So yeah, I would agree.
Definitely. And there's the reasons why people exhibit as well, aren't there, Tamar, that go beyond just lead generation, and we need to consider brand awareness.
For me, exactly. You're there to represent your brand, to raise awareness of your brand. You shouldn't forget that. You know, you're there to make sales easier in the future. So you need to be having conversations, creating content, getting people talking about you, having conversations with the right people. I'd rather have many less conversations, but quality conversations with people that are we can make a difference with. So I think that's the really important thing here. So I think the last one, because I think our time is going to be coming up soon, is attendees. So what is return on, what are the metrics? How do attendees measure success?
Yeah, it's a bit more difficult, isn't it? Because every individual is different. And again, you're going to be so bored of me saying it. I think it goes back to objectives. So what you really want to be ensuring is, why are your attendees coming to the event? What are their objectives? And to what extent do they feel like their objectives were met? And that helps the organizer too, but also from attendee perspective, if an attendee can walk away from an event and say, okay, I came for this and I got this, success, they'll be coming back next year. And so for me, it's again all about that return on objectives. Were objectives met? Were expectations met? Because those are also increasing from an attendee side too. So for me, ROI probably actually spans across the board for all these different groups. But again, were objectives met, and how well were they met, and will I be back?
Yeah, and well, I've just been an attendee at an event that you were at as well, Chloe. Not an exhibitor, just an attendee. And for me, I judge the success of an event when I've chosen, and my metric would be return on time, when I've chosen to take 2 days out of the office. In this case, I've only traveled into London, but if I was traveling to Vegas or somewhere like that, the cost gets up even higher. Yeah. For me, it's like, did I get return on my time? So I've come back from that event. I can tell you that I've had 16 conversations with people in the industry that I haven't seen for a few months. I've come back with a list of connections. I've made connections with people. I've run a couple of customer breakfasts. I've done a partner dinner. So for me, I'm able to, and that's why I went. I don't think that don't assume every attendee has the same set of objectives. Not every attendee is going just to go around these stands and wants to get scanned. Not every attendee is going to want to sit in every session. There are lots of different reasons why people want to attend an event. And for me as an attendee, return on time is the way that I make a decision about which events I go to.
And I wonder actually if return on time and return objectives are again interconnected, because actually if you hit your objectives, you would assume it's time well spent, right? I guess. So again, probably a bit of a loop. Because the same event I went to, I imagine my objectives, Tamar, were totally different to yours, but I still feel like it was a valuable use of my time, because I went to see old friends and network a little bit. And that's probably not what 95% of people went to that event for, but I felt like it was a valuable use of my time. You did too, but for separate reasons. So to your point, don't assume. Ask your attendees why they're coming, and then ask them again if they feel like it was worth their while.
Yeah. And when you ask your attendees, get them to say it in their words and listen to what they're telling you and respond to it.
Yeah, nice.
And I think, are we up?
Yeah, I think our time is up.
Thanks, Chloe. That was a great chat.
Yeah, thank you so much, Emma. Lisa, I think you're on mute.
I keep doing that today. I was like on money last week, and today I'm not as much. But thank you, Chloe. Thank you, Tamar. That was awesome. I can't wait to watch the replay, because we're watching live, but I feel like if I'm watching the replay, I can get even more out of it. So thank you so much.